I'm not going to worry about your level of concern.
Yoy and double yoy.
We talking about
Twitter.
Triple yoy.
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
Quadruple yoy.
We're going to unleash hell here in December.
We're not urinating on the fire, man.
We mock ourselves.
Man, this was supposed to be hell unleashing season.
Indeed.
Instead, it was the opposite. The only thing to put out hell unleashing season is a downpour. Water beats fire.
Yeah, there was no way for the hell to like burst up. It got rained out.
So what are you supposed to do? You know, it was supposed to be hell unleashing. It's hellish, and now it's worse than it. Now we're living in hell. So we went from unleashing hell to now living in our hellish nightmares. Hellness. It's what Jin's talking about. It's the conversation about the Steelers' social media conversation. Luckily, it's game day too.
Whew.
Right? On the second Thursday game of the season.
And last one, thankfully.
Yeah, I don't like these, but man, am I happy this one came along, I think.
Yeah, this was the only time I'd ever be happy for Thursday Night Football, or as happy as I can get for Thursday Night Football.
Or Thursday late afternoon, if you're on the West Coast.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Kyle Kreis. In the hoodie, I'm dressed like we're in the tundra. Across from me, in the same climate, but dressed in the tank, is Greg Benevent.
Hello. I had to wear this because on a short week, there was no time to find a complete shirt.
Short week, short sleeves. Whereas me, I'm ready to hibernate. I'm ready to pack it up. Much like some of these takes. Coming up in the second half. What can we tell you? We'll talk Kenny, maybe. You know, is it time to move on from Kenny? And the insider info. Are we going to trust this insider info? Every week we keep telling you how bad the insider info is, and then they keep coming back with more. So the insider report that I'm calling BS on.
There you go.
And I'm no insider, but I can see you. I'm a mental insider. If you've watched this team long enough, you know how it operates, and especially our coach. If you study our coach, like I've been studying up on that new Tomlin book.
Hey.
Anyway, let's get to some of these takes. This isn't even a bad take. This is just kind of a good old summary from at Cuda Grills, Matt B. Not a good Sunday. Minka broke his hand. Watt got hurt. Pickett got hurt. Roberts got hurt. Sayamalu got hurt. Steelers lost to a 2-10 team. No good, very bad day. What hurts more? Because to me, the injuries hurt more than the loss itself. Is that...
Yeah, I think that, especially because, I mean, so many of these injuries look like they might be lasting, particularly the ones to Pickett. I mean, I'm sure Minka played every snap in the game with a broken hand, but on a long enough timeline, having a broken hand has to affect you somehow, right? So,
right.
And also, if you're going to lose, I mean, if you have to lose a game, and you shouldn't lose a game, you don't want to lose a game, but which I'm sure is something we'll also address later on. But if you have to lose a game, losing it to an NFC team is the least bad thing that could happen. But still, is
that a double negative? The least bad
thing I could. Well, I think we're going to accept it after a day like this. But yeah, this was. I mean, not a good day at the office is meant as like a fun understatement, but that's exactly what this was.
We'll talk more in. Whoops, sorry. Oh. Yeah, well, you get credit for that.
Whew.
We'll talk more where this ranks on Tomlin's worst of all time list because believe me, the Tomlin talk is out. But more importantly, it's the return of the existential dread. Let's get to the sequel, the return of the existentialists. Starting with at Steel C Network, Steel Curtain Network. This game could end the Steelers season. With still tons of hell unleashing left, but the injury with the injuries, I might agree with the degree of injury here.
Yeah, I think the point you could look back at this and say this was the game that ended the season. This was the beginning of the end. That is entirely possible. It could go to that point. It might not. It's important to not completely crater positivity just yet. But yes, this very well could be the game you look back on and say, oh, that's where, I don't know if luck ran out, but maybe everything ran out.
It's a good point. Only in the future will we know if this is the game that cost us the season. But in the present, we can only say that it is not. So that's a weird time paradox. So,
no, but it's correct, though. That's very much correct. And moreover, that's definitely the way, minus the beginning part, that Tomlin does think about that. It's like, okay, what can we do to win the next thing? Which, for good or for ill, is always the way they're thinking.
Love it, right? Steelers football.
Steelers football is 60 minutes.
60
it's
minutes.
never going to be pretty. Throw style points out the window, but these guys will fight to the end.
And that's not 60 minutes, not just even the game, but as far as the season, it's 17 weeks. It should be like 60 minutes, 17 weeks, 365.
Possibly several delays for weather as well. Like it can be longer than all that, too.
Oh, I know. Believe me, my bill, I spent more on Sunday this past week because of that extra hour.
Oh, jeez.
More existential dread from at Chris Turney. This Steelers game is the worst I've seen, I think, in my lifetime. I think I'm sick to my stomach over this. This is like the third time this year that we've had the worst game of our lifetimes. We said this after the Niners game. We said this after the Cleveland game. And now this game. Is this the worst?
I mean, they do seem to be getting progressively worse. I mean, neither of those teams were 2-10 with... and neither of those teams really had an organizational mandate that they were okay losing the game, as the Cardinals seemingly were, with that one tight end that was like, I don't feel like playing for you anymore. And they were like, have a good day. But what I do like about this tweet, what I got to say is that this, in terms of hyperbole, this isn't so bad, because this person they're actually being emotionally vulnerable about this. They feel sick to their stomach about this. They aren't blaming someone else. They aren't yelling at someone else. They aren't saying some horrible thing about the future. They feel bad about this, and they're letting you know. That I can live with.
You're exactly right.
All right, so we're not pointing the finger. This is kind of the
Yeah, I'm sick to my stomach about this, and I get it. I totally understand.
Yeah, I was sick to my because I had to get an extra drink and a chicken quesadilla. Why did I have to order 2 lunches?
Well, I mean, we didn't know how long it was going to go, and then maybe they would have come back at some point. I mean, I understand the quesadilla.
Okay. More exist. I mean, what is this? Is this the worst loss even of the season? I don't know.
I kind of think it is. I mean, it's the
worse than the Browns.
I think it's worse than the Browns. The only one that I thought is maybe comparable is the Niners, even though the Niners are obviously a very good team, and we knew that going into the game. That was also the first real break from what we thought this team might be in the preseason, whereas this was a game where they had everything to play for, and they looked very bad, but weirdly they didn't look very bad until after the first few drives. It's not like, everyone talks about the Steelers were unprepared. I'm not sure they were. They had a great first drive on offense and defense. Okay, they didn't they didn't get a touchdown, but they kicked a field goal. I mean, they looked like they were moving the ball. Kenny was making good throws. They were running it. So it's disheartening on many different levels that I'm not sure the other games were.
Yeah, I remember our conversation was kind of like first quarter was like, well, let's not let them stick around, and then second quarter was like, well, defense showed up, did their part, and then just the injuries piled up, and you couldn't compete anymore. But I didn't have the kind of existential dread like the one and only at Captain Tyne Knots. If the Steelers lose to the Cards, I truly hope we lose out, so there's no more effing talk about Tomlin never having a losing season. Sick of that BS stat. Dude needs to get bumped down a few pegs. Is it time to just we're in the playoff hunt, but come on, right? We're really not going to compete with Miami or the Chiefs, right? Should we just pack it in right now in December, just enjoy Christmas?
I mean, that's hilarious about the idea of this person doing all of this and then would go on to enjoy their Christmas, as if they wouldn't be the most miserable person at any holiday event they attend. But I whenever you see someone say, I hope we lose out or something to that effect, what they're trying to do is distance themselves emotionally. By doing that, you're making it so you care so much and now you don't care. That's what you're trying to do through that. And also, by the way, the dude needs bumped down a few pegs. Yes, if Tomlin goes up and Tomlin has accepted responsibility for losses and things going badly many times. None of the people ever saying he needs bumped down a few pegs has ever admitted that he's bumped down a few pegs. What they want is Tomlin to show up at their house on one knee and say, I'm sorry I didn't draft Jalen Hurts or something. So none of that works either. But yeah, I you said one more thing. I had so many things. You said something else that I wanted to address. I don't even remember specifically what it was. You were talking about Christmas. You were talking about the BS stat and all this. I mean, there's just so much going on here. They're in the playoff hunt. You don't want to quit. If there's ever a year to not quit on the playoff hunt, this is it. There's like 2 starting quarterbacks left. And you have no idea if they're coming back. This is what I mean. I don't like to keep yelling now. We have plenty of time to yell about this. This is what drives me nuts about people who say tank and get a good quarterback. Great, you suck for 2 years. You get a great quarterback, and then he's out. And then he's Trevor Lawrence, and then he's Burrow, and then where are you? Then you're a bad team for many, many more years. Do you think your friends on the fan are going to defend that then? Like it? Oh my God!
You've unlocked a new treasure.
I was so mad.
No, I love the point, though, that you said, though. It's like they want the team to lose out so they can justify their anger now. Instead, show some hope, show some grit.
Which is so much more difficult.
You've been here before, Steeler Nation. You know what it's... Hell, we were 7-5 in 2007, right? Was that the season?
No, 2005. 2005.
Sorry.
With a weak schedule going into the playoffs. I mean, everyone forgets that it was, the run to the Super Bowl 40 that started very weak in the regular season. And even then, they struggled with the Lions. And I remember Sports Talk Radio after that win against the Lions saying they have no chance against the Bengals. It took them forever to put the Lions away. And just, anyway.
There's still more existential dread.
God.
We're not done yet. Let's get to Amadi and Mahdi. The state of the Steelers is sad and very depressing. At this point, there needs to be a very critical evaluation of what they have and what they need, and big changes need to be made. Not sure they will win another game, to be honest, not with all the injuries. Will we win another game? We have some injuries there. Without a middle linebacker, are we going to win another game at first?
I mean, I think they can. I mean, I do think they have to win against the Patriots, or else, like, you think this is crazy this week. Like, they're going to want to burn down the stadium if they lose to the Pats. Yeah. But I think what's... and again, what makes it so difficult to parse the weird... I feel comfortable saying already this is the weirdest Steelers season of my lifetime. I feel pretty comfortable saying that with a month to go. But what's so weird is I'm looking at this person's comment, and Mahdi, and I agree with most of it in part. I don't agree with how far I think they'd take it. Like, it's sad and depressing right now. Sure. Okay. Critical evaluation of what they have and what they need. Big changes need to be made. Sure. I think your definition of big changes is probably not ours.
We've swapped out our offensive coordinator. We got the rookie tackle in the game now. He's starting. Joey Porter is a starter now.
Darnell Washington practically is too.
Darnell Washington is getting a lot of snaps. Jalen Warren is a de facto starter as far as snaps. What other changes have yet to be made? These are people that want Mace in there.
They also want Tomlin to go tonight, and you to hire some other smart coach that, of course, you'd give plenty of chances to. I mean, that's what I'm saying. When someone says big changes to be made, even if I think, this team does need changes to be made, I could feel the hair stand up on the back of my neck.
And that's not a good thing. Wait, is there more? Yes, there's more. Wait, there's more.
Oh,
this is like a
Billy Mays.
Some kind of commercial. At Timbo Slice 910, Tim Flannery. The Steelers are a team of meaningless streaks. Kenny Pickett's interception streak. Mike Tomlin's no losing season streak. They mean absolutely nothing, and they both provide a poor product. We need real change, right? I'm sick of these no losing streaks and these fake losers. This reminds me a couple weeks ago when someone said fake wins or something.
Yes, fake wins.
This no losing streak means nothing, just winning. It means nothing just to win. Kenny Pickett's interception streak is the only thing I think that's keeping him maybe in the game. I don't know.
I mean, I think that's also how they want him to play. But I think as this season goes on, and I was thinking it during this last game, the fact that Tomlin's right about when this team turns the ball over, they do not win. I mean, look at the turnovers they had in this game. I mean, even before the Mitch one, they turned the ball over as far as you could from their own end zone, and they lost. I mean, they gave up a touchdown. When this team turns the ball over, they don't win. And it just hit me now. I'm so glad you brought up the fake wins. Does that make this a fake loss?
Well, I mean
it's they lost to a team off of injuries. They lost to a team when obviously some calls went their way. How many times did the Cardinals fumble? Did the ball didn't bounce their way? I mean, if you're going to say there's a fake win, then that also does imply the existence of a fake loss.
I'm sure Cardinals media is like, they didn't deserve to win this game. The point that Wex made was, this isn't a 2-10 team with Kyler Murray. They're
right.
a 2-2 team.
Which is the best point to be made. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whatever. It's still, it's a loss.
Oh, yeah, absolutely right. This isn't college football. Thank God.
How about one more for the Doomsdayers at Kyle Beagle? Adam Shine, the Steelers are not consistent, fun, or trustworthy. I'm out. Good, fine, get off the bandwagon. They're not trustworthy, fun, or consistent. That's 30 years of Steeler football. Back to overtime games with Cower.
Well, also too, it's a football team. They're not meant to be your consistent or trustworthy friends. That's not how this works. I'm glad you brought up Billy Mays, because this person absolutely looks like they're in the middle of an infomercial right now as they're doing this. That all the secrets to making money they don't want you to know. But I also feel like this person, if I'm not mistaken, this was one of the talking heads that during the offseason told us how bad the team was going to be. So while I respect their feelings that they're out, whatever that means in this context, I also doubt that whatever it means to them that they were in.
You guys are funny sometimes.
I agree, right? Funny national media people. Get off the bandwagon.
Right.
We don't need you. Mm-hmm. All right. Are there any? Is there any hope? Where's the cure for the Doomsdayers? There's a couple. We've got at Joe Frick. Steelers over-under on the season was 8.5. They might not be meeting your expectations this season, but at 7-5, they are far outpacing what Vegas and the league expected. Does Tomlin have his flaws? Absolutely, but they are not by any means underachieving. Is this a statement of fact? I thought some of the over-unders were 9, but I'll give him 8.5.
Well, I mean, it's 8.59, but they were all right around that. You could not find a consensus. Maybe you found a couple outlying sports books trying to drum up some action, etc. You couldn't find a lot of places saying 10 at all. I don't think you could find a lot that said like 6. But you found a lot more of 7 than you saw 10. So this isn't crazy. I mean, obviously, some things might change with who was and was not hurt. But the Steelers certainly had their own string of injuries even before. Friends of mine are considering suiting up at inside linebacker on Thursday night here.
So would you say this is an overachieving team at 7-5? It doesn't feel overachieving.
No, it doesn't feel overachieving because of the way these games have gone. Again, this is the weirdest season of our lives. I mean, I hope someday, decades from now, someone writes a book about this season or does a hologram presentation or something. But it doesn't feel like overachieving just because of the way these games have actually played out. And again, it's hard to say someone's overachieving when we're talking in the direct aftermath of a loss to a 2-10 team.
Listen, I trust Mike T wholeheartedly, man.
Yeah, me too. I agree. Me and Kenny. One more person who might trust Mike T as well is at Pastor Runge. Pastor Wade Runge. Dear miserable Steeler fan, you would have lost your mind in 2005 when Steelers were 7-5. The odds were stacked against them, yet they went on a roll to win the Super Bowl. It had been a 25-year wait for the city. Just be a fan for a minute and cheer them on this week. Is there comparisons from this team to the Super Bowl 40 team?
I mean, yes and no. That team had come off of a 15-1 regular season the year before, and then they'd had stumbles that next year, in large part because injuries to different people, injuries to Ben, injuries to some other players. But when Ben, and all seemed lost after the loss at home to Cincinnati, in which case it was a back and forth game, but the Bengals always seemed more or less in control. So yeah, they were, things seemed pretty down then, but there's also a feeling like, okay, they don't get them this season. Maybe we don't have what we thought in Roethlisberger. We'll get them back next year. But when I read this, I thought of a different Super Bowl year. After the loss to the Titans in the regular season on the run to Super Bowl 43, I remember listening to sports talk radio in the car with my dad and him, the people at the time. Maybe it was Madden, maybe it was someone else talking about like, give it up for Hines, the only one of them still trying out there, and that's when they were getting the second bye. And if the Titans had beaten the Ravens, they would have had to go to Tennessee to win that game. But yeah, so. I mean, it's always been some level of this misery since the 70s. It's just important not to let it pollute your entire life and day.
Well, that's I guess that's enough on that. Let's shall we get to the second half? Don't you want to play any music? We're gonna go to the second half where we're gonna talk Tomlin. The Tomlin haters are out in full force. They found an opening and they're trying to flank us, but they shall not prevail. And we'll talk. Ken, you haven't even talked to quarterback because it's time for him to go, according to I guess 90% of Steelers Twitter. All right, stay tuned. Maybe we'll. You know what? I forgot to put on here. I was like, maybe we should talk about Ryan Shazier's book club, but I forgot to put that on here. All right, we'll see you in the second half.
According to legend, little folk know Hills is where the toys are. Hills Toy Layaway, just 10% down, a small service charge. Lays away toys, little and large. Hundreds of toys, express layaway too. So layaway's even easier for you. Remember, Hills Toy Layaway. One reason they're different and why they say Hills is where the toys are.
At low prices every day.
According to legend, little folk know Hills is where the toys are. Tag will never be the same with Worlds of Wonders laser tag game. Star cap, star vest, star helmet, and more. Worlds of Wonders the name, Hills is the store. Lots of toys every day. Another reason why they say Hills is where the toys are.
At low prices every day.
According to legend, little folk know Hills is where the toys are. Hills has Toy Layaway. Just 10% down, a small service charge, and regular budget payments. Aisle after aisle, hundreds of toys for fun and for learning, for girls and for boys. Low prices, selection, and Toy Layaway. More good reasons why they say Hills is where the toys are.
It is the second half and a 0-0 first half score on your Thursday night. Where I think total first downs will win the game. If it's a tie, 0-0 tie.
We go to first downs. I think we go to the cards. Actually, we go to who's.
We go to the judges' card.
Yeah, I think so. You get a TKO and.
As if Al Michaels is feeling good about that. Okay, how about my coach? This was a bad week to be named Coach Mike Tomlin. At least if you're on Twitter. Let's get to at Fantaskippy, Jeffrey Benedict. Since 2007, the Steelers have lost 20 games to teams that finished below 400 for the season. 9 of those games have come between weeks 11 and 14, where the other 12 to 13 games of the year only had 11 of them. So hell in December, indeed. This was supposed to be hell unleashing season. It was the worst opening to Hell Unleashing season in Tomlin history.
I mean, I think it's right up there with what the official Hell when he actually said they had to unleash Hell, because wasn't that off of a losing streak? And the 2018 when they had that stretch of losses after the big comeback against the Jags on November 18th.
They at least scored points though in those,
yes.
in those
yes,
games.
no, absolutely, I agree with you. This I do agree. This was the worst Hell Unleashing season opener yet.
But still plenty of, there used to be only 4 games in Hell Unleashing season. Right. Now we have 5, so...
I told you, it starts earlier and earlier every year, and it takes longer and longer, yes.
So don't put away your Hell Unleashing carols yet.
Right, exactly. You could still wear, I guess, your Steelers Satan ears? I'm not sure exactly what season.
We need a Hell Unleashing wardrobe or something.
Yeah,
something
like
that
a black and gold pitchfork or something.
Winter with the hellhounds of
right, because there's no Devils mascot team in the NFL. That just hit me now. It's not like other sports where there are. Anyway,
good point. Okay, let's move on to. Oh, don't you want to? Where's the sound? There it is. At Jim Wexel, James C. Wexel. The Steelers went off as favorites of only 6.5 points. 6.5 points on Sunday. There have been many more significant losses under Mike Tomlin. Feel free to list them. I count 15 worse losses, 6 at home. So I was just like, wow. 15 worse games than Sunday. And I was trying to think, what could they have been? I came up with the Tebow game.
Right.
That was a 7.5 point spread, which is more than, what was the final spread this week? 6.5?
It was 6.5, yes. And also, too, that being a playoff game. I mean,
yeah,
on the road, but still a playoff game. Yeah.
The Raiders at home in 2009 was a minus 15 spread. I don't remember this game.
That's the Bruce Gradkowski game. I forget if he comes off the bench or he starts the game, but the Pittsburgh native, who does good analysis now, led the Raiders to a big win. And it was just as that was one of those oh wow, they really don't have any corners games from what I remember.
What other bad losses? The Bortles game, that was a -7.
Also the playoffs. Yeah.
The Baker game, I think that was only minus 3.5 or something.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, there's no way. I mean, that line. I'm sure the Steelers were favored by plenty, but I don't know it was that big because they hadn't looked that good down the stretch. Even though they'd won on that Sunday against the Browns.
And then just the Browns 2 weeks ago, I think I don't know. Is that a worse game than we've already talked about?
No, I'm glad you put Jets 2022 on here too, because I was trying to figure out what it was. Because I think Kazora put that since their last 6 games at home, when they were favored by 5 or 6 points or more, they were 1-4-1. So the one tie, that's the Mason game against the Lions. Remember when Ben got COVID on Thursday night?
Who could forget?
The pouring down rain. That starts with the Commanders' loss in 2020, if you remember, that Monday night game.
Oh yeah, yep.
The worst one that I know gets compared a lot to this, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. I only remember because of the ugliness of the jerseys. Is I think it's 2012 or 2013. They lose to the Buccaneers in Pittsburgh. It's when they had those weird the pewter and the light orange. I don't know if it was Mike Glennon, a quarterback. I don't know if everyone remembers how bizarre those jerseys were. The ones they absolutely got rid of when Brady showed up.
We have a loss to Mike Glennon in our annals.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That was because that was when they go down 2 touchdowns big and Ben can never bring them back.
I erased that from my hard drive.
Yeah,
apparently.
But how much were they favored in Houston this year? Because I think that might have been on this list too.
Oh gosh, geez, we've had 4 of the worst games of our lives this season.
Right.
And all right, how about? We've done the existentialists.
Yes.
How about some more Tomlin hate? At J Hartman _Pitt, Jeff Hartman. The bad look continues with Tomlin's Q&A portion of his presser. Don't know about DJ Celebration? Ask the reporter his thoughts, and then says he'll keep his thoughts on it to himself. What? This season, people have been, insiders and bloggers alike, have been a little put off with Tomlin's attitude during these pressers. Was he particularly salty on this? I mean,
I watched it. I didn't feel too much of that. It was any more so than usual. I know Alan Saunders, who's come to be one of my favorite Pittsburgh sports talking heads. I really like that guy. It's talked about how he's very sensible. Said something like that Tomlin's been, testy with them because they keep asking him the same questions, but that's because the problems have kind of been consistent now throughout much of the season. So I kind of get that, and I kind of wonder if that is sort of trickling down into what we're talking about here.
I also just don't think they're going to get him to talk smack on anything, even something like celebrating a fourth quarter touchdown
when you're way down. Yes.
Like I've been reading this Tomlin book, so I don't know what what is the past and what is now, but I believe that he's been pretty clear about celebrations that aren't really relevant in the past. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, and it's also before they changed the celebration rules, you can kind of do more or less what you want. The Steelers did get a fair amount of those penalties, and we used to hear this kind of nonsense too, that there was, that they were undisciplined and all that, which always has weird tones. But yeah, when they would get those penalties. So, I think I imagine he did say something to DJ about it. I certainly cringed seeing it. I hate using the word cringed, but that's actually what happened in my body. But yeah.
I kind of like DJ spin on it, where it was like, hey, I'm not going to be down on myself just because we're losing. Like I got to tell you, he wasn't over the top. To me, it felt like a reserved celebration where he was like, I scored, we're down. Let me shoot it down from the sky, which I don't even know you could do. I thought the gun
thing was bad too. I know people compared him to Jamar Chase in a similar situation, and that looked bad. I'm glad you said that, Kyle, because it does lead to another point. I kind of think about this is that people all process these losses and things going badly in different ways, and I think a lot of people, and DJ in particular, get offended by the way that he just seems to naturally react to things. He might be a person that kind of smiles when he's nervous or when things are going badly, which I get because I'm kind of the same way. So I kind of think you, the fan, trying to deal with your own emotional hurt about this, see DJ smiling and think he doesn't care. Whatever else other issues the guy may have as a player, I think he cares.
I want to tell all these DJ haters, especially the ones that are like, well, we don't have to re-sign him and all this stuff. When he was in his extension negotiations and they asked Tomlin about him, and he was like, this is my kind of player. This is don't think that he's on the first train out of Pittsburgh here. I wouldn't be surprised if he sticks around. I think he is the veteran on offense.
The only thing that I could see keeping from happening is, honestly, I can see someone throwing an absurd amount of money at him just because the wide receiver market is just through the moon right now.
That's that's a good point. That gets okay. How about let's move on. There's more Tomlin hate. Of course, this little thing always rears its head this time of year. At Barstool Yinzers, Tomlin's biggest indictment is his lack of coaching tree. He has never once had a member of his staff become an NFL head coach. McVay has 4, Shanahan has 4, Reed has 5. Nothing special going on in Pittsburgh. Oh, where's Belichick? I don't hear that stat anymore.
Oh, yeah, right? No, that one went away. I think the third time that Josh McDaniel got fired at like 1 a.m. I think we finally got rid of that. Again, this guy should read Zeiss. Zeiss had so much better Tomlin hate about than this. What is it? With 3-7 record in the playoffs since 2011 and 26-23-1 in his last 50 games. Like, those are so much better stats if you're going to hate versus Andy Reid had young assistants.
Coaching tree.
Right. I mean, it's Shanahan had young assistants. McVay's guys, bumped around like that. And also too, I mean, it was kind of the best example of the argument against this back in the day, and it's still pretty solid, is that there are very few coaches that come into their head coaching position and are told explicitly, you're keeping this coordinator, which is very much what Tomlin was with LeBeau. And it's not like he was ever leaving to get a head coaching position again anyway after what happened in Cincinnati.
Yeah, reading this Tomlin book, that does come up, and LeBeau he did ask about the job. He kind of wanted a shot at it, and they said no, but they didn't want to get rid of him.
Right.
So how Tomlin dealt with that that's why he brought on John Mitchell, because John Mitchell could sit in the defensive room, and if he felt like Tomlin's message wasn't getting across, he could always go back to Tomlin.
Gotcha.
It was like Tomlin's ally in the room. Not that he needed it. LeBeau, it turned out to be a great partnership between Tomlin and LeBeau. But
But that makes sense, and that's also why one of the reasons they didn't re-sign Porter after Tomlin came in, because Porter was Cowher in that locker room. I mean, he was Cowher's, he was the Riker to Cowher's Picard. I mean, he was his guy, and that's why they had to bring in someone new. And also, they weren't going to afford Porter, and they had Harrison right there. But still,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone talks about Tomlin's coaching tree. I can't recommend. I keep bringing up this Tomlin book. It's not that, everyone looks at the tree, at the branches, and says this is what the tree is. But look at the roots. And Tomlin's coaching roots with Keith Butler and Randy Fiechner and Terrell Austin. There's a story about where these relationships formed and how it all is coming together now. Tony Dungy and Dan Rooney. It's a pretty good story. I recommend it. Put it on your Christmas list. Any more Tomlin hate? Oh, yeah, we're just getting started. Let's go. To the evil genius at Mark Madden X, Mark Madden. A case to fire Tomlin has been laying its foundation for some time. Today threw gas on that fire. Today was a joke. Much of it can be traced to coaching. It's embarrassing why they lost. The leadership is ish too. Cam or whoever. Teams with legit leaders don't play and act like that. We beat Cincinnati, and all of a sudden we're on the fast track to win the division. One loss later, and now the case being made to fire Tomlin. Is it is it that bad after this loss?
I mean, it's not good. They have to go 3-2 down the stretch to get into the playoffs, and they're not going to win the division now. They'd be very unlikely to do so. The Ravens would have to lose some other games, but again, your quarterback is always 1 foot away from getting hurt, as we've seen in the AFC. So it's very hard for me to say never and never. I mean, I did think. I had thought originally that coaching was a big part of why they lost this game, just because if, 2 or 3 guys are playing badly, well, it's on them. If the offense is playing badly, it's on them. But like when everyone plays badly, I kind of do think that tends to be coaching. But I heard our alum Christopher Carter say that the plays were there. These guys just didn't execute them, didn't do them. They weren't in the right places, which on a long enough timeline gets back to coaching too. But man, the idea about the leadership is bad. That always seems like one of those weird things that you just throw out there. I kind of went along with, Madden's tweet here for like the first half up until why they lost. I mean, but after that, Cam's out there on one leg. There's no inside linebackers. I don't know what leadership Cam's going to display that makes somebody heel. That's just like, okay, it's why the heel announcer from a very successful wrestling outfit, you say the thing that there's some truth to, and then you build off of that, and it's very well constructed, heat. It generates
I
heat.
laugh at that.
You think that there's a little bit of foundation to, a case to fire Tomlin?
No, I don't. I'm not saying in the context of their case to fire Tomlin. I do think today this threw gas on the fire of the people that want to fire Tomlin. I do think this was like, if you were like pent up and you were like confused after the Bengals game, which there were. We talked about that. Remember how it was like silent? Like this gave them a chance to like spring back out and be like, aha. And then if you wanted to make that case, this gave you the chance to make that case. I mean, no, Tomlin's going to be here for a while. I mean, it's regardless of what happens this year, regardless of what happens next year. Where there's no case to be made at this time.
I just want, for those who say this was a coaching loss, I say what part of coaching was a miffed snap by Mason that led to a fumble that Mitch didn't jump on? I blame Mitch as much on that for not falling on the ball as Mason on the bad snap. What part of the coaching loss was execution on that 4th and 1? What part of coaching was losing your middle linebacker? Like how do we didn't scheme quick enough when they were throwing the ball over the middle. Like I don't know, who do you put in there? Some said you could put Minka on that tight end or something.
No.
I don't know, maybe.
I mean, I think so many at home penalties for not too many men. There was the one where they called the penalty and then they called a timeout and then had 12 guys on the field. There were the ones 2 times where wide receivers weren't lined lined up in the right place and they got a penalty. There was the one where, remember, they had to take the timeout because Okorafor wasn't on the field. I think those are kind of the things that, I mean, if it happens once, okay, that guy's an idiot. But over the course of a game, that I could see this wasn't the best coached game in and of itself. But again, that's one badly coached game is not an excuse to fire somebody.
No, those are good points. Those are good coaching points. I take those.
But those are 4 or 5 plays. I mean, and also the last one with the timeout and the 12 guys, that was after the game was decided. That one was when it was over. And by then I could see your mental toughness starting to, wane a bit.
Yeah, in the fourth quarter. I mean, how do you judge the fourth quarter? That was pretty much a whooping. But you could say, well, the game was already out of reach.
Right.
I don't know. But then, I hope that's not more of the same. It's not like we have another linebacker coming up to fill the gap there. I don't know. I'm worried. That's my fear. I'm worried that we bottom out defensively.
Yes, that's entirely possible. It's back to 2021 again. Yeah.
All right, enough Tomlin hate, right? We can only so much, which is all false in my eyes. Okay, because we got to spend some time talking about our QB.
Oh my God! They killed Kenny! You bastard!
It's. I mean, God, I thought it was done, but apparently it's not. Apparently it's not the end of Kenny Pickett. Let's get to at Tommy Jaggy. The Steelers can't sit around and wait for Kenny Pickett to improve in 2024 and beyond. They need to be exploring their options this offseason. KP can't stay on the field, and the performance has been far less than desirable when he has. QB limbo is a scary place. It's time now to start thinking about the end of Kenny, or does he still have all next season?
He gets all of next season. What's going to happen is what was always going to happen is that the Steelers are going to bring in a new quarterback next year. Kenny needs to have a long-term backup because they still certainly believe in him. They love that guy that beat them for the quarterback for the Browns, that DTR, except the Browns took him around before they wanted to. So they're bringing somebody in, whether it's a draft or free agent or whatever. But the worse Kenny does, the worse it looks. I do believe maybe the higher that goes in terms of where you would consider bringing in that guy, whether it's in the draft, whether it's through using capital, whether it's for, signing a guy. I mean, I would strongly think about a 3rd-round pick for Justin Fields because if nothing else, I mean, I don't know what the Bears would take for him. The Bears have certainly proven to be, let's say, erratic trade partners, but I could see having Fields as either a long-term backup or maybe a Kirk Cousins kind of guy like Cousins was in Washington to be, the long-term backup who ends up being the guy. But yeah, they don't want to have to spend $8 million on the most expensive backup quarterback in the league next year. So they are going to bring someone in. But it depends on where and how high they do it. But they believe in Kenny enough, and Tomlin believes in the idea of football justice enough that he's absolutely getting another year.
You heard that. There's a hot take there. Justin Fields.
For a 3rd-round pick. I'm not giving up anything more than that, and I would love to give up a lower pick. But, I mean, they need a young guy to be a long-term backup, even if you believe in Kenny. So that's whatever the mid-level quarterbacks are in this thing, whatever next year's Bailey Zappi is, whatever, and maybe Fields could be that guy, that kind of thing.
Well, if you're looking for that guy, look no further than at David M. Todd. David Todd, QB has to be on the table for the Steelers. Need to look at Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Quinn Ewers, among others. Need to check in on Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, seconded yours, Matt Stafford, etc. All of them. Are you if you bring in Cousins, he's not a backup, right?
No, because you'd have to sign Cousins. You wouldn't be able to trade something for him. No, if you're signing Cousins is coming in to start. Another guy that, let's generously say, doesn't have the best injury history. I have no idea who those first 3 names are.
I think these are college
guys. I do not
guys.
look forward to having to find out who they are. Obviously, they're college guys. I hope to not have to figure out who any of them are until they're playing against the Steelers. But yeah, they're going to bring in somebody to be the long-term backup to Kenny, whether it's one of these guys in the draft or trading for somebody or drafting somebody. It's just how high up and how much do you invest in this person?
Matt Stafford? No?
Would he do it? I mean, it's that would be actually a pretty good pick. I would feel more comfortable with Stafford as the backup than Mitch, but that's only because I've seen Stafford win a Super Bowl within the last few years. I don't know if Stafford has how much athletic ability he has left, and also I'm not sure Stafford is necessarily in the, hey, let's not turn the ball over mentality that the Steelers preach and believe in.
Well, let's get to some insider news. We need an insider sound.
Insider.
There it is. At Steeler Nation, insider reports that the Steelers nearly benched Kenny after the loss to the Browns. Now, this comes from trusted, quote-unquote, insider Jerry Dulac, who do we believe he's the one who stuck by that the Rooneys fired Matt Canada?
Oh, yeah.
So if we're sticking with that, but here I am. I'm dipping back into the insider well. Now, see, are there different personality? Dulac, the columnist, seems to have a different tone than Dulac, the radio appearance maker.
I was going to say almost the exact same thing, Kyle. You beat me to it. Yes.
Because here's the quote. Now, he doesn't ever put this in his official column, but this is when he goes on to the so-called fan. The quote is, after the Cleveland game, there was some discussion that maybe a change needed to be made at the quarterback position because of the way Kenny had been struggling for those 3 games. Now, that all changed with the performance in Cincinnati, but it had been discussed. Who discusses that? It's Matt Canada, Sullivan, Tomlin.
It wasn't Canada if it wasn't changed with the performance after the Cincinnati game. I mean, maybe it was discussed before that. I don't know. And again, I've read too many news stories, but man, there was some discussion that maybe a change needed to be made. That is as many qualifiers as you can think of in one sentence right there.
That sounds like me talking to the Starbucks worker when they see my Steelers hat. Oh, so you sticking with Kenny for the rest of the year?
Yes.
It'll be like, well, reports are that podcaster and Starbucks insider.
I had noticed that same conversation with the one bartender at Flappers that's a Steelers fan. Yes.
If you were even considering benching Kenny, wouldn't you just put him on IR at this point then and just say, hey, let's wrap it up for the season?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I didn't realize this until this came up the other week, that I didn't know this, that apparently Tua had been benched at one time or another, and someone else that went on to be successful was benched. I forget who it was.
Ike Taylor during the Cower years.
No, but I meant like another quarterback on another team. But no, Taylor's fine. The last time I can remember it happening with the Pittsburgh. But hey, if you wanted Kenny to be benched, you got it. We're gonna find out.
Yeah, you got what you wished for once again.
It's here. We're gonna. I mean, because this happens all the time in baseball. I don't think it happens in hockey, but I mean, if a pitcher is struggling, they'll put you on the IR, and that just means you go to some weird facility somewhere in Florida or something. But in football, yeah, I mean, he's rehabbing this knee. He had tightrope surgery, which sounds incredibly painful. But he's not in there. He's not in the pressure. He's watching. He's getting, so whatever benefits there would have been to him getting benched, surely he's getting them out of this very equivalent thing.
It's my quarterback.
He's going to come back. They say he's coming back for week 18. So we've got, if that game matters.
And he's already undefeated in Baltimore.
The thing is, it's like there's so many scenarios where that game doesn't matter, and I would say, why bring him back? But there are a few scenarios where that game means everything.
Yes, and I'd be very, very surprised if it means everything or if it doesn't mean anything. I think if he can come back, they're going to bring him back because they do want to get more evaluation. Let's see him in this situation. He is a team leader. I'd be stunned if he was able to come back and they didn't bring him back.
If it meant the difference between a 7 seed and a 5 seed, though, I would say whatever.
Well, but then you let it come out hey, if they're looking at a 5 seed, maybe Mitch has been playing real well. I don't know. Maybe you want to come out and see if Kenny can do this just for the rest of this year. Maybe then you are benching him for whatever the playoffs end up being. I mean, I couldn't predict what was going to happen 4 days ago. I'm sure not going to be able to predict what's going to happen in 5 weeks.
And we're not going to try to predict what's happening tonight.
Because, oh God, I forgot for a second. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But how about this hot take at 5-star matchup? 5-star check. Everyone clowns on Flacco, but his last 2 starts would be a career day for Pickett. Oops, that's no lies detected, I don't think.
Well, I mean, the only lie detected there is how to go for Flacco in L.A. He had Myles Garrett. He had Kareem Hunt. He had all the weapons there. It was I don't understand. If he played such a good game, why didn't he win?
Well, good point.
And by the way, I don't mean to clown up. 5-Star Matchup does do a nice job. I watched one of their videos, and they are a funny person that works very hard. So I mean, it's I get this, but yeah, it's again, the Steelers have. This is the other thing we talk. I mean, I'm going to go over this week, but everyone said, oh, Kenny should have thrown to Calvin Austin, and he was open for a second. He looked at him and decided not to do it because that guy might have jumped the route. Maybe that's being too conservative. Maybe that's what they coached him to. It certainly didn't end up well. But man, the idea that, taking more risks automatically works out better than it has is asinine.
How about a little devil's advocate from @JRound32, Josh Roundtree, the so-called fan defending Kenny. Kenny Pickett's second season has had number 1 wideout on IR with attitude issues. Number 2 wideout going full diva. I don't know about that. Number 3 and number 4 wideout making little impact. Number 1 tight end on IR. Number 2 tight end making little impact. O-line is one of the NFL's worst groups first 7 weeks. Worst offensive coordinator in NFL who got fired. Ankle injury, surgery. So, I mean, I don't want to say play the victim, Kenny victim here, but are these legitimate factors into this season?
I mean, there's obviously, as you said, a lot of these are open to interpretation, but I mean, there's a lot of this that certainly has some degree of truth in it. And if you want to see some angry people, click on this tweet. The response is this: some folks were livid that this man was making this argument. They were mad.
The Kenny haters, you're
right,
saying.
The Kenny haters, they swarmed on this one. This was, they could brook little dissent.
I guess, I don't know. I guess if you're Kenny, that's the argument you might make. Or,
well, I mean, but I also don't, I mean, that's part of the reason that Kenny might be the guy for this job is that he's not making these arguments. I mean, everyone to a person, it's not like, Kenny does not seem to be even the slightest bit of a malingerer.
A malingerer?
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh, somebody that, a sense of victimization, saying, oh, these injuries are too bad. Oh, woe is me, a bit of self-pitying. Someone that blames says, well, it's because of these injuries I couldn't do it. Roethlisberger, which sounds bizarre now, used to get some of those accusations just because after a game, if they'd lost, he would talk about like his hand hurt or something. I mean, people were weird then, too.
Roethlisberger, the mingler, whatever. Okay, well, I think the band is trying to take the field. We've got a mingler. Was this a Renegade? They didn't play Renegade, or did they?
We thought they did going into the fourth quarter, but we weren't sure.
Did the rain play a factor? I don't know. In the special teams, I felt sometimes the rain did.
Well, I mean, the special teams didn't make Miles Killebrew commit 3 penalties, which is still the most bizarre thing to me. Like, if you ask me who's the smartest guy in this team in terms of not doing dumb things, I might have said him like 2 weeks ago.
Right, that was a factor. It was. I said they come out looking like they were playing a little bit more physical than maybe the refs would have liked, and I think that led to some of those early.
We did
flags.
Discuss that. You said that at the time.
So I don't. Right. That's why when they were like, "Oh, did they come underprepared?" I don't think they did, but
no.
I think it was mistake prone. It was almost like too. You came out at 11 and you overexert. You needed to dial it back at, when you're a fighter, you're not supposed to punch at 10. You're supposed to punch at 8 or 9 so that you can have some control still. And
no, and I think you're right. And I think that by multiple players made comments about mental toughness, and I think part of that is being able to adjust to that kind of thing.
Well, let's give the final word to. Can we get maybe some music here? Yeah. Let's give the final word to @RealClark25, Ryan Clark. Welp, Matt Canada, you're off the hook. My bad. Is it one game, and are we willing to close the door on this offense yet?
I mean, Ryan Clark is a fine example of people that, again, a great player in Steeler history and all this, but someone that is prone to overreacting a bit for the cameras. I mean, wasn't it just the other day he did the thing about he went on TV and said, this is a team that cannot live off of the trophies anymore. They have to admit that the standard is sagged or something or other. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's Canada wasn't all the problems, which I believe everyone told you at the time.
or at least we told you.
Right.
I don't know if everyone. I think I felt like we were paddling upstream on that canoe.
That Alan Saunders guy, I think, said a very similar thing. But we were paddling upstream as well. That's a good point.
And maybe all the players in the locker room who said time and time again, it's not the coordinator, it's us.
Right.
I think Pat said it again this week.
Yes,
it's not
he did.
the coaches, it's us. And that seems to be where I fall when there's a botched snap, when there's and when there's no one able to stop what they're doing too. It's personnel and it's execution. I don't know. That's just me. That's just what I'm talking about. What are Ian's talking about?
That's what we've been talking about.
That's what we've been talking about. Next week is going to be a really good show. I know I keep talking about this Tomlin book. I believe I have the author coming in on next week's show. We're going to get down to the truth about some of Tomlin's, some of my biggest question marks, maybe about the BA firing. Maybe we'll get into the Matt Canada firing. I don't know. This book is really good. Tomlin, the soul of a football coach. The quickest I've read 400 pages. Not since I can't even think of a joke. I was gonna say not since I got that parking ticket. But
I think like the Lone Wolf books when we were little kids. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, not since Encyclopedia Brown dropped a new release. All right, if I still have some Blame Canada stickers I'm going to send out. I know that's way overdue.
But I think they're going to be funnier now. I think they're better collector's items. You put a little hook on them, you put them on your tree.
Put them on your tree. Oh, maybe next week we'll have the Steelers Christmas shopping guide.
Hey!
There are some cool things this year.
Yes, there are. There's some weird things, too.
Shoot, maybe we'll tease that. There's a big show next week. You should have tuned in next week.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
Hopefully the game is already a big win at this point.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they're running away with it.
All right, I'm on social media at Kyle Kreis. Greg, what about yourself?
At Greg Benevent on Instagram. B as in boy, E-N-E, V as in Victor, E-N-T.
Until next week, when we have an awesome, fun-packed show, keep listening to your coach.
Be their best selves. That's going to be required.
Stay in school.